Hey everybody, it's Ronnie. They call me the Blue-Eyed Native, and I'm joined by Noelani here, from Navigating Pacifica, and we have another amazing interview for you here at Daybreak Star Radio with the amazing, the awesome, I have so much respect for you, Director Robert Santos of the United States Census Bureau. Thank you for meeting with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for hosting a data nerd like myself. It's an honor to be here. Thanks, Ronnie.
No problem. So, we're going to just hop right into it since, we've got a whole bunch of stuff to go over, and I'd love to see what we can.
Let's hop right into it.
Hop right into it. Noe's going to start us off here. Why don't you go ahead and get us started, Noe?
All right. So, I'd love to. Thank you. Since your historic appointment as the first Chicano American director of the Census Bureau, how has your experience been, and what have been some of the most impactful moments or initiatives you've been a part of?
Well, thank you very much for that question. I indeed am the first Latino director of the Census Bureau. I wish it wasn't the case, but it is what it is, and here I am. The reason that I accepted is because I actually thought I could help based on my, 40-year career as a statistician, but also because of my Latino culture. I was born and raised in San Antonio, in the barrios. I'm a Mexican American. All four grandparents came over from northern Mexico as a result of fleeing the Mexican Revolution. They were refugees. And that mix of culture and statistical training has really embedded in me the value of having different perspectives from different points of view and cultures, and I've seen firsthand how that adds value to things like, how do you collect data? How do you present it to a particular audience? What makes the data relevant? How do you improve it and get more excellence in the products that you produce? And that helps then also with the interpretation of the information that's provided. So I really like that.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing.
So I was curious, what notable changes or developments have occurred in the census process or outcomes since the last census, and particularly with respect to indigenous cultures and Native American communities?
Mm-hmm. Well, the big changes that are occurring with the decennial census programs, and we're now well into planning the 2030 decennial census of the population. The big changes came in 2020 when we actually invoked an online method of participation, so that we had in-person, telephone, and online as possible methods of participating. We're going to use that in combination with things like administrative records that we have from the Social Security Administration and other federal sources to move forward towards 2030. When it comes to indigenous populations, there are a number of challenges that at one extreme or at one end, it's not extreme, at one end involve the complexities of working hand in hand with sovereign nations on a nation-to-nation basis. And on the other hand, dealing with the implications of that when it comes to trust and, security of the data, sovereignty of the data. Our approach is to basically do a deep dive and have as a priority engaging tribes, engaging people from tribal land, engaging everyone from Indian country. And what we're doing is we have this effort that we're making to go out and talk to associations of American Indians and Alaska Natives, to go and visit tribes, to talk to them and ask them about their data needs, and then to show them the value of the data that we have. We want to make this a continuous engagement across the decade, So no longer are we going in like on a year 7 to do a year 0 census and then say goodbye, see you in 7 years. We recognize that we need a continuous relationship because during the time between censuses, we want to show the value proposition. Like, here's the data. Here's how you can use it for your tribe, for economic development, for community needs assessments, for submitting, taking the data and then using it to submit for grants from federal funds or other sources. It's really, really important to do that. And it's also important to communicate the security of the data that we're providing as well, that we don't share it with any other agencies. It's all, the individual responses are secure through Title 13. So we do those types of things to socialize the value and the security. And our goal is to build trust and to partner isn't the right word because we have nation to nation, but to work together, so that, the people of Indian country understand we're totally committed to providing the data that you need for your communities.
Yeah, mahalo nui. That's really wonderful. I really appreciate you expanding on these improvements in data collection and building trust with Native nations as sovereign communities. Yeah, this was, you really touched on this next question that we had. And I feel like, yeah, it's very nourishing and important to learn about the different data collection methods that are used and that have been implemented to better capture and understand the demographics and needs of Indigenous populations. So thank you. Yeah.
Yes. What we're actually doing is we're making efforts to capture what we call disaggregated data, but all that means is we want to make sure that people in Indian country are able to tell their stories, to say we're from this tribe and we're from this particular, let's see, we're not only from a large tribe, we're from this specific tribe within the larger group. And we were able to capture that in 2020, and we look forward to capturing that again and possibly even more disaggregated in 2030. In fact, we recently released in September a statistical product from the 2020 census, and it had over 1,200 specific tribal designations for individuals. So at a national level, if there were 10 people in a very specific tribe, we could report on that. And then when you got down to lower levels of geography, we could, for certain size tribes, we could report for very low levels of geography down to individual tribes on tribal lands and within that as well. So we were able to address real issues that address people on tribal lands, like you have a tribal land where you have a sort of rich sub-community of non-tribal persons within it. But around it are American Indians who are not doing well at all and are needed of services. Well, if you just looked at the tribal land with that mix, it would, like, people's average incomes would be really high because you had that little enclave. And we were showing folks how you can take that out so that you can get a real clear view of what's going on with people, with tribal people.
So, in what ways has the Census Bureau enhanced its engagement and collaboration with Native American tribes and communities since the last census?
What we're doing is beginning and reinforcing existing relationships that we've had with tribes and with organizations that represent tribes, like NCAI and things of that sort. And that's continuous, unlike the last decennial census, where we basically started intensely in year 7 to go to year 0. So we're doing that active, continuous engagement. We have also hired a group of tribal representatives at the Census Bureau who are represented throughout the country, each of whom is a person from a specific tribe themselves. so they truly understand what's going on at the ground level. And they are now on staff for the entire, permanently. So we can nurture and cultivate the relationships and understandings between tribes and the Census Bureau so that we can better understand the data that you need.
Nice, I respect that.
So how has the more recent census data impacted policymaking or the provision of services to Indigenous and Native American communities?
Well, the data itself are being used pretty much every single day for funds development, for economic development, and for community needs assessment, for public health. We see a lot of examples of that in Alaska. We were just in Washington State with the various tribes there, and that we met, including the United Indian of All Tribes Foundation. We had a very, very productive session with them where we basically opened up the computer and said, "Look, you can get this data." Very fine granularity to address your needs. So we're doing a lot of that, and we're seeing the benefits to the community, to the economy, and so forth. We also have something called COIL, the Census Open Innovations Lab, that is data scientists who are in machine learning and artificial intelligence, etc. And we have a program where we challenge communities to come to us and with their specific problems. And we put together people from the private sector, together with indigenous tribes and others to solve those problems in a quick sprint of a year, over the course of a year. We just completed one that features projects that benefit specifically indigenous communities across the U.S. And it's interesting, it helps people take a look at where you can go to get capital funds for economic development within tribal lands. So it's a very specific data product that we used, where we put together different people from the private sector, from Indian country, with our data, and they came up with a product that helps bring together business people from tribal lands with capital funds folks so that they can create new businesses.
Wow, that's amazing. That's awesome that you were able to do that with the data that you collect. That is awesome. That is really great. So reflecting on your tenure so far, what are some personal takeaways or lessons you've learned about the importance of the census in representing diverse communities?
One of the interesting things I learned is that I thought I knew. I've been a statistician for 40 years, right? I've been a public policy researcher for about that time as well. I thought that I knew everything there was to know. No, because my focus had always been on people. And what I found is that there's this enormous portfolio of economic data. We actually do 3 censuses. I didn't realize that. I was only focused on the decennial population study, which is constitutionally mandated. But we also do a census of governments, and we do a census of an economic census of all businesses. We capture annual business survey data that includes the race and ethnicity of the owners of the businesses that have employees. And so one can go into that database and look at what's going on, say, with owners of businesses who are people from tribes or from people from Indian country. And you can take that lens and start saying, well, what's the GDP of business people from tribes, and how is that contributing to our economy, and what does that say about the advantages and growth of economic growth for that group? So that was surprising that there was this whole big economic sector with all these indicators, GDP and all this other stuff that we produce that can benefit people from disadvantaged communities and backgrounds. And I think some of the best value we have are things like the Census Business Builder that bring together economic data and demographic data. So you can go into your tribal land and identify an area and say, if I wanted to put in a grocery store or something, what does the population look like? What would be the customer base? What would be the competition? And you can create literally a business case to then go to a bank or these capital fund folks and say, we need a manufacturing plant here. We need a grocery store here, or a hospital should be over here. Things of that sort. There are many other tools that we have available. There's My Tribal Land that is a data tool that also has these types of visualized data. It starts with the U.S. You can go into the specific tribal areas, reservations and such, and then drill down and look at the demographics of that small area. Just a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of math. I'm glad you're doing it.
And so looking ahead, what future initiatives or goals do you envision for the Census Bureau, particularly in the context of inclusivity and accurate representation of all communities?
Yeah, thank you again for that. I believe myself to be a champion of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And as you know, those words have become very politicized, right? But I actually believe that you don't even need those terms to get because everybody agrees in human dignity. Everybody agrees that people should respect each other. Everybody agrees that we should give each other a fair chance to do whatever it is that we aspire to. And those are the underpinnings of diversity, equity, inclusion. But I go further. And the way I go further is that I see diverse perspectives being added as absolutely necessary for better science and for better data. And I'm using that and infusing that in challenging the Census Bureau and, in fact, the federal statistical system to recognize that we need representatives from American Indian and Alaska Native tribes and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders, and from African Americans and Latinos and Asians and others. We need that mix of perspectives if we want to do better science, capture better data methods, and produce more relevant data that's more accurate to make society better.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Really, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you speaking with us. We definitely here at Daybreak and United Indians, we appreciate everything you do. Definitely making sure that, all cultures are basically represented and the initiatives that you've put forth. And yeah, thank you for speaking with us. We really appreciate it.
We know that we need you in order, we need to work together as a community of the whole if we're going to serve you better, because we are public servants here to serve you.
Well, thank you again. We appreciate you. Everyone out there, make sure, you look up all that wonderful stuff he stated. I know there's some tribal leaders out there that probably would love some of that information. So,
and if you're asked, please participate in a survey. We will protect your data, and it will help your community.